what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Foot Candle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Foot Candle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. With me is Chris Fry. We are both with the Foot Candle Film Society and directors of the annual Foot Candle Film Festival. Chris, how's it going?
It's going well. I will warn the audience, don't be disappointed. We're not going to do any movie news this week, but we are going to do two reviews. So we balance everything out. Yeah.
We double your pleasure on the review side, even though we have a dearth of news to share, but that's okay. Yeah, that's what we try to do every episode is maybe a review and some news, and then we might even have a recommendation from Chris. Chris, do we have a recommendation this week from you?
We do. And the reason we do, normally I probably wouldn't have one because this time of year, we're starting to get critics links for screeners. And that's all I'm focusing on is trying to see as many films as I can for the end of the year. But a lot of times the leaks we get aren't actually available to the public yet. So it doesn't make any sense to recommend it. However, I do have a film that is widely available that people can watch that I can recommend. So, and it is a new film.
We will look forward to doing that towards the end of the episode then. Perfect. But in the meantime, we have a couple of films to review for you. First up, we'll be reviewing the latest Stephen King adaptation, strangely enough, of a remake of a 1980s film. It is The Running Man, starring Glen Powell, this time directed by Edgar Wright. So we're going to be reviewing that film. Following that, we actually do have a film that you'll probably be able to see on Netflix soon, but it is playing in some select theaters in the short term. It is the film Jay Kelly, directed by Noah Baumbach, starring George Clooney and Adam Sandler. So we'll be reviewing that film here in a few moments. But first off, we got to get to The Running Man. That is the one we're going to talk about first. So Chris, are you ready to do this? We got a little 80s flashback. We got a little Stephen King mixed in. We got a little dystopian future to kind of get into. Are you ready to review The Running Man, the 2025 version?
Shown on market, set, go.
All right, here we go.
Ben Richards, 35, married, one child, in medical crisis.
We need money for a doctor now.
Ben, watch us up.
Employment status, blacklisted. But there's still a way out for you. It's the biggest show in the country.
Bloodlust is our birthright! Set it free! Welcome to The Running Man!
People on these games.
When I heard Edgar Wright was going to remake the 1987 action film The Running Man, that was based on a Stephen King novel and had starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, I was curious. Wright was not someone I would associate with doing updates of previously released films. Usually, original material kind of tends to be his bag. When I heard Glen Powell was stepping into Schwarzenegger's contestant jumpsuit, this made sense due to his recent ascendancy as a movie star with films like Top Gun Maverick and Twisters. After watching Wright's take on the material, Alan, do you feel like it was a match of director and material? And what was your overall take on the 2025 version of The Running Man?
Questions in order: no, and unimpressed. Is that the way?
Wow, that's concise.
Well, I mean, you asked the questions. I want to give you straight answers. No, I don't think it was a good match, director and source material. And I left unimpressed with this version of The Running Man.
Okay.
For various reasons. And it pains me to say this because I'm a big Edgar Wright fan. I want his movies to be good. Many of his movies I love. So yes, this is a disappointment for me in that I do not think this worked. And I have a couple theories why, but let me just kind of explain. Yeah, you mentioned kind of the one byline of the plot, but obviously this is a remake of the film from the 80s starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. The good thing is that I know I saw that film. I mean, I've seen it. I don't really remember the details of it. So that was actually kind of good for me. It's like, all right, I can really go into this a little more fresh. I mean, I know I've seen the Schwarzenegger version, but nothing detail-wise really stands out to me about it. So I could go into this with a pretty fresh perspective and not hold it as a comparison to the first theatrical version of the story. And I also say, too, I really like Glenn Powell. And nothing I'm going to say about this film is an indictment on Mr. Powell, because I think he is good. I think he embraces what he's given to work with. I think the fact that his character is written challengingly, I don't think it's his fault. I think he is doing the best with what he can do. The problem with this film for me, Chris, is that, Edgar Wright, okay, you want to make an action movie. Great. He has shown flourishes of action. Most of his films have skewed more into the comedy side,
right,
with flourishes of action. This one is meant to be an action movie with maybe some small flourishes of comedy. I didn't find any of the action really interesting. I didn't find it at all thrilling or captivating in all the way. And then the times where there are comedy, I didn't find it very funny. So it's like, okay, so what's left? If it's not a good action movie, if I didn't find it very interesting action-wise, and there wasn't enough comedy there, could it skew into the socioeconomic commentary? Which, I mean, I think there's some room to do that there with this film. And it does so lazily and just by the books, and there's nothing much to say either, even though it's a ripe opportunity to comment even more about media and the portrayal of media sources and power, and there's so many things you could play with. And it tries at the end with a little small speech from Glenn Powell's character to give us something. It's too little too late, and it doesn't resonate. So anyway, so it kind of like on the three things you could have done with this film to make it a good film: action, comedy, and commentary. I feel like it just kind of fell flat on all three fronts. I'm just like left with, okay, well, that was a movie. It was a, I'm not going to say I was bored or I hated it. It's just, there just wasn't anything to it. So anyway, that's where I am. Again, I will say nothing but positive accolades on Mr. Glenn Powell. I think I've said that on the show, even in his role in Twisters. I thought he was great. I liked him in Top Gun Maverick. I think he's really good. So I'm not saying anything bad about Mr. Powell, but unfortunately, Edgar Wright, you're talented. I just don't think this was a good source material for you to work with. It just didn't fit your sensibilities. I didn't feel like, anyway. Chris, I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think about the Running Man 2025 version?
So sounds like I may be slightly, ever so slightly more positive, but okay. I think you and I basically land on the same page, and it comes from a place of surprise, really, that, like you, I admire a lot of Edgar Wright films, and I would not say this film is bad, but it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, There it is, and it didn't impress me. There was nothing really that jumped out at me that was good. The performances were all serviceable, but there wasn't anything like, Glenn Powell was fine. And I think maybe I expected a little more, I guess, dynamism from the guy that I just dropped his name, Coleman Domingo, who plays the game show host, the Richard Dawson part in the original. And he was there, but I don't know. Somehow it was just kind of...
Everything felt very muted. It felt very...
which for an Edgar Wright film doesn't seem
exactly,
right.
Which is surprising because it's just... there were so many opportunities to just go either really bonkers with this and go over the top, or, if you're going to play it straight and play it a lot more serious, with there are definitely moments where it's trying to be a serious action film. It just doesn't lean in either direction very hard, so it makes it tough.
And I've heard a lot of people say that, because I've seen reviews online, that they didn't feel like this was a very Edgar Wright film. They didn't feel like, his kind of hallmark with, I guess, some of the comedy and stuff like that. And I'll tend to agree. The one part, which was my probably my favorite part of the film, but unfortunately, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen a moment in this sequence spoiled, but at least the whole sequence wasn't spoiled. Michael Cera meets up with Glenn Powell, and he's kind of somebody that's trying to help him. And, there's a scene with water guns that's been spoiled, but there are other things that he has in mind that is planned that I like that. And that seemed very Edgar Wright to me.
That was the one scene in the film.
A house.
That was the one sequence where I felt like the film had a spark. And I felt like, okay, this is what should have been from minute one. It was a Home Alone-ish, just so much going on, so much happening, and tricks and traps, and all to music, and it was a really fun sequence. And I'm like, yeah, this is what this film should have been from the beginning if it wanted to lean into this. So I agree with you completely. That scene really was great.
We'll speak, I think, which is another letdown for people possibly, and I think you were saying for us a little bit too. This film does deal with like the haves and the have-nots. Glenn Powell's child in the film, Ben Richards, which I kept thinking was like a Fantastic Four reference, but no, Ben Richards is the character's name that Glenn Powell's playing. He has a young daughter. The young daughter is very sick. He has been, because it's a little unclear, basically he stood up for himself in some jobs.
It's very unclear. Yes.
He stood up for himself in some other jobs that he's had, hence he's gotten laid off.
Right.
So he doesn't have a way of getting income, and he basically ends up doing the running man to try to get money for his daughter so that she can, which, okay. But it's kind of unclear.
A lot is unclear, Chris. And I have a lot to say about the unclearness of the plot and the story and even the mechanics of how this works, because I think that really brought me out of the film many times, is trying to think, okay, now how does this work and why did this happen this way? Anyway, yeah.
Well, and I'll say something that I'd seen The Running Man, the original, but I don't really remember beat for beat. I've seen it. I think I've seen it exactly once.
Right.
But I do, so they say early on in the very opening scene, Ben Richards has an anger problem. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe that's why he's lost jobs. But, he has a soft spot, of course, for his wife and his daughter. And throughout the film, I don't know, the idea of being angry or like that's what made him lose his jobs, that doesn't really hold, because you see him going out of his way to help other people. So you're like, I don't get that. Ultimately, my kind of biggest letdown for the film was in 2025, with Edgar Wright at the helm, the conclusion of this film has a chance to show Ben Richards making a change, making a character arc, development, ascending on the arc. And instead, the last basically shot of the film is kind of a punchline. And for me, was a disappointment in the character of Ben Richards. And that's without spoiling anything.
Well, I think honestly, the whole last 15 minutes of the film is a big disappointment. It just does not end satisfactorily, at all on any front. So like you just talked about, that the character development side, I don't feel like we got any full circle view of Ben Richards, this character. I think the character was really poorly written in that it's just, we're having to be told about him by other people saying things about him, and we don't actually get to know him, I don't feel like, in any way. And then by the end, you have a chance to bring him full circle, and you don't, And then also the mechanics of the ending. I'll just say there's a sequence in a jet plane.
Yes.
That's just that whole ending sequence and the dialogue that's happening between Ben Richards and, what's the character being played by, Josh Brolin.
Oh, okay.
There's this whole dialogue sequence, and it just falls flat. There's no drama to it. It doesn't feel like it really ends satisfactorily. I don't know. I just feel like the whole thing kind of just fell apart in the last 10, 15 minutes. It didn't work.
And let me cite for another thing that was a thing that could have really helped the film, and then it just kind of landed with a thud, and I was like, okay, not impressed. I'm not going to spoil anything for people. Obviously, I haven't seen the film. Just came out this past weekend. There is a character who is masked
Yes.
the entire film. Well, not the entire film, but for most of the film. And he's one of the, I believe they call them the hunters.
The hunters.
That, in addition to everyone in the public that is trying to capture the running man or, people, which that wasn't as fleshed out as I remember it being fleshed out in the original. But anyways, the hunters chasing it. And it's kind of like, it's a big deal, obviously, because this person has their face masked. When you do get the person taking the mask off, I couldn't have been less impressed I was like, that's it. Now, it seems too that the character Ben Richards isn't really affected by it either, which in the plot of the film, it would make more sense. Like, it wasn't handled well because I wasn't impressed because I was expecting it to be somebody easily recognizable to me as like a major superstar or something. Like, let's say not that I did think it was going to be this person. I'm just going to give an example. I thought it'd be like Matt Damon. I'm not Matt Damon, but I can't, anyways, I thought it'd be somebody like that. And then it wasn't. I was like, okay.
Well, you weren't impressed by Lee Pace?
Okay. So you're going to go ahead and say, so I didn't know if that was supposed to be like a big.
No, he's credited.
He is credited. And I didn't know if that was supposed to be like, oh, cool. But I was like, okay, I recognize this guy. I don't know what I recognize him from, but
yeah, well, I think
not a big deal.
Lee Pace is all over the media, like promoting this film. So it's like when you start watching this film and you're like, okay, well, where's this guy? Lee Pace is like, well, okay, well, I mean, I guess he's got to be the guy in the mask. Like we're not seeing him for 3/4 of the movie, maybe. Right? Sorry if that was a spoiler, but I think that's the least harm I can do on this film, commenting wise. But anyway, yeah.
Well, and yes, I just was very, very unimpressed. And it would so I'm unimpressed. Big deal. But more importantly, I wanted Ben Richards to have this like shock moment or this awe moment, and he doesn't.
Well, it's supposed to be a realization that this is somebody that
apparently
was in Ben Richards' shoes in the past.
Correct. And everyone should recognize this person, which is why he was wearing a mask. And then when Ben Richards sees him, he's like, oh.
Well, I mean, what would have been cool is like, if it was a well-known person in this universe.
Right.
And then when Ben Richards sees it and it's kind of a full circle moment of, oh, wow, this is all just a big cycle that they're just rechanneling these people. No, nothing.
None of that. And so I was kind of like, okay, that doesn't. Not only am I not impressed, but Ben Richards isn't impressed.
Well, I'm more concerned that Ben isn't impressed. I mean, that was supposed to be a moment and it resonated with nothing. So
it fell flat.
Fell flat is kind of the biggest phrase I can just use. Chris, can I ask you a couple questions about the mechanics of this game? Because this honestly hurt my enjoyment of the film so much in that when you have a game that the whole movie is focused on this game show, The Running Man.
Right.
There are rules, there are mechanics to it, and those things help you as the viewer have some framework to put on what to expect because that's how you build tension and drama as you know the rules.
Right.
But when the rules are kind of muddy and chaotic, it kind of hurts an enjoyment for me anyway of the film of being able to say, okay, well, should he be doing this now? Because I thought the rule was this, and I thought he has to do this. For example, the rule is you got to record yourself like so many minutes a day on this little video recorder, you as the contestant. It's kind of a proof of life thing.
Like 10 minutes a day.
It's like I'm required to do this 10 minutes a day, record a video of myself, and then I got to drop it off at these little receptacles.
Right.
But were these receptacles just for the videotapes?
I don't think so. I think it's
like a post office.
It's the future, but they're the future's version of the blue post office box sitting on every corner.
That wasn't really clear. I thought that these receptacles were only for these videos. I'm just like, well, that's kind of dumb. It's like if I were hunting this guy, I would just camp out at these receptacles all over and wait for this guy.
Okay.
So, and somebody kind of does at one point. So anyway,
So I got that point. No, what I was saying was like, didn't make sense. Is you have to figure this game has been going on for a while. Mm-hmm. And at one point, Ben Richards, or actually somebody tells Ben Richards, oh, well, here's what we'll do. You'll go ahead and record, 1 million of these things, or I guess 29 or whatever,
and
in front of a white sheet, and I'll just drop them off. And I'm like, okay, that company seems like they would have figured out how that
was
couldn't
the question
work.
I had as well, too. Shouldn't these things like be time and date stamped when they're recorded? So it's like, this is digital technology. That's easy to do. It's like, that doesn't make sense either.
Because otherwise, every contestant would have done
this. That's
like,
what I would totally done, to go ahead and do 30 of these things.
So that didn't make sense to me. Yeah.
Again, that was also a point I was going to make. Another point too. So they're given a 12-hour head start.
Which I believe is in the original movie.
And that's
Not that
fine.
it matters. Yeah.
But then again, I need to know the mechanics of how that works, because it's like the very first person that Ben Richards comes into contact with when he leaves the studio, there's 12 hours now,
Right.
is a cab driver.
Correct.
And the cab driver is helping drive him somewhere. But Ben Richards threatens the cab driver. It's like, don't tell anybody or whatever like that. And I'm like, okay, so help me understand the mechanics of this 12 hours. Can somebody still, after 12 hours, if they saw him, they could still report him at the end of the 12 hours? Like, oh, I saw him at this place.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. So it's like, all right. So and again,
I don't think he can do
the
anything.
fact that I'm having to ask these questions
no.
here, this
Yeah, I
is the
get it.
film should have done this, you know.
I don't
so,
it could have just been a couple of extra lines of the dialogue of the cabbie, like, wait 10 hours, buddy, and I'm going to report you. I'm going to get because I think if it leads to a capture, you get so much money. If it's
Right.
like a tip that helps him find him,
Yep.
it's so much other money. So,
Okay. Another question.
but yeah, it was kind of,
It's just very muddied. And again, when you're talking about a movie that the premise is so tied into this game and the
Sure.
mechanics of the game, you got to understand the game. And if you don't understand the game, it's kind of hard to enjoy the movie around it.
Sure.
Last question on it.
Sure.
So my understanding was early on in the film when Ben Richards goes to enroll in this game show, it's like there's a whole network
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
all the games.
which I thought was interesting too.
So
like,
you go and you try out, and they put you in whatever game they want to put you into based on your
right.
how well you try out.
Or how much of a face plant when you fail will benefit them.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And I kind of
Because
get
there are
that.
some-
So when
yeah.
these people are signing up, they're just signing up for any show. Like
All these reality
I'm going
game
in for the
shows.
reality show network, and they're going to pick whichever of their 20 shows or however many they're running
Right.
that you're going to be a contestant on.
Right.
And Ben Richards didn't want to be on The Running Man because it's the most dangerous.
and his
all
wife
that.
told him don't do it.
Right.
So he was going to go for one
So
of the
he's
other ones.
going and he gets his little jersey, like they give him. It's like it's a Running Man jersey. So he's on The Running Man, and it's like he didn't seem too been out of shape about it. I mean, he does tell the Josh Brolin character, "Yeah, I don't want to do this," but
Then he makes it. He's like, if you do it right now, we'll give you enough money to set your dollar up.
But there was also a stipulation or thing they were saying where you get so much after so many days.
Right.
Okay. So could it not be, or shouldn't it have been, at least I was going in the impression that Ben Richards could have stopped at any time.
By getting killed.
Well, but that wasn't clear again, because again, I'm going based on just what the Josh Brolin character is saying. It's like, oh, in the first 7 days, if you make it 7 days, you get this much money. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, cool. So if he goes 7 days, it sounded like, at least from that description,
They didn't make it clear.
that you could stop and you get that much money. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good deal. So he just has to go like a few days and he gets some money, enough money to make it work. It's like, it wasn't until later in the film, it was clear to me, oh, no, you can't just stop.
Oh, no,
you have to keep going. I'm like, why is he not stopping? Like, why is he not after a week? It's like, oh, good.
Sure.
I just made $100,000. Boom, I'm done. I'm out. And
Right.
he doesn't. So I'm like, again, the film, the fact that I'm having to work in my head to figure out that's a problem. So it goes back to that muddiness that you're talking about. I think the character of Ben Richards is a very muddy written character. I think in his whole anger versus heroicisms history is just very muddy. And then I think the game is very muddied in the way it's described and explained to us. And then you add on top of that comedy that just wasn't great. I can't really remember any really funny moments other than the Michael Cera
sequence in the
Yeah.
house. Yeah. Which some of that's been spoiled.
Right. And then there was no action scenes that I can like point to and be like, oh yeah, that was a really good action scene too. I'm like, so yeah, it's just underwhelming, disappointing is kind of where I'm coming back with it. So,
Sure.
All right.
So I'll state two other, I guess, hang up. Like I'm saying, it's not a bad film. If you've never seen the original, you'd probably think this was a passable entertainment.
Passable entertainment.
But I think with the Edgar Wright attached to it, I was
Yeah.
kind of expecting a little
Right.
more let down. So when he kind of has a team, but then they split up. I guess no, maybe it's not even a team, but there are three contestants that
There
are
are three
kind of
contestants
released
that
at the same time.
came into the game, the Running Man game at the same time.
So one you can tell is pretty disposable.
Yep.
He goes away pretty quickly. He's the nerd, which I guess is pretty dependable or pretty predictable that he's going to be the one that gets, knocked off first. And sure enough, you're right.
Yes, and shout out to him. By the way, I'm a big fan of him he's a part of the Please Don't Destroy comedy group that did skits on Saturday Night Live. I think he's very funny.
And he was good.
He was great. Yeah.
Yes, he was
Martin Harley. Yeah.
So the other one, that's the other person that's kind of released at the same time as Glenn Powell's character, Ben Richards, was Katie O'Brien.
Yeah.
And she was in Love's Lies Bleeding. She was also in Twisters, I think, in a very small role.
She's a really good actress.
And here again, she just doesn't really get
disposable. I mean, well, it's like you build up a little bit of a connection and a little bit of relationship with it, and then we're supposed to buy Glenn Powell or Ben Richards' reactions to things later in the film, and I didn't buy them at all. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, whatever. You knew this person for 2 minutes, it seems like early on, and that's it. So anyway, yeah.
So that was disappointing because I was expecting, she's going to be, in this film a lot more. I thought maybe she would kind of team up with Ben Richards, kind of like I think in the original Running Man, he kind of teams up with one of the other contestants, and that didn't happen.
Well, there's that, and then also I got to call out his wife, played by Jane Lawson, his wife Sheila Richards. They do so much setup, actually really clumsy setup, I think, in the beginning, kind of setting up their current family situation, their financial
where
straits.
She works and stuff.
Right. And it's very clumsy. It's almost like expositional, just the two of them just standing and talking and like, well, I do this. And it's like, well, I do this. And we have to do this. Or, well, we got this going on. It's like, it's so laid out in a single scene of dialogue, everything you're supposed to know about these people, but it's still not enough. And then all indications are, Chris, that both Sheila Richards, the wife, and the Katie O'Brien character that you mentioned should have some impact to the story later on, and really neither of them do.
Right. And
it just seemed like a wasted opportunity because those are two important characters that were introduced to early on that I think should have some impact, and they don't. And it just seemed like, okay, well, why did we spend all this time getting to know them up front if there's no impact to their role later on? Anyway, whatever. Yeah.
I will say, I thought Josh Brolin was kind of fun in his role as the, maniacal laugh executive.
It was so mustache twirling. It was so over the top.
Right.
But he was having fun with it.
Sure.
Look, and I thought Coleman Domingo, I agree, was a little more muted than I would have expected. But he was having fun too.
No, yeah.
The parts are good. It's just those two, because they were so caricaturish characters, you can have fun with those roles. They don't need to be written any more than they are.
Right.
Ben Richards is the one that needed a better writer for his character. But yeah.
So I'll say too, the final kind of hang up I had, there again, we've said passable for me, at least barely, but something that maybe would have allowed more time to go to Jamie Lawson's character as the wife or Katie O'Brien's as the other contestant. Maybe we could have shunted a little screen time towards them. Was the character of Bradley, played by Daniel Ezra, and he was the person who also, before Michael Cera, I think, kind of aids Ben Richards, and he's a blogger.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
And
yep.
I think, I guess that's the thing now, is in movies where you need some exposition and you want to make it hip and you want to make it seem up to date, even though this is in the future, you throw in like a blogger or a YouTuber, essentially. And in the beginning, when he's there at the first, I was like, well, okay. But he comes around at the end, and it just really, you talk about landing with a thud.
No,
I was just like, eye rolling, couldn't wait for that to go off screen.
That whole sequence, that's what I'm commenting on, that ending that I thought just worked horribly. Because we cut from this plain sequence, this is a dialogue that happens between two of the main characters. And then it's like something happens, and we go now to a recap by this blogger, kind of what happened now, and here's the thing. But it's like, it was so bad. It was just, I agree with you. It was, I wanted it to end. I'm like, this is not the way I want this film to end, or to kind of lead to an ending here. It's like, this is a lazy way to do it. And and you're right. This is the future, but yet that video looked like the video work looks like it would have been from even a few years ago now in our current day.
Right.
And so it just didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
It was not impressive. But
No. Unfortunately, it was just a kind of a big whiff of a film for me. I mean, again, look, if it's on in the background, on cable or some sort of thing, whatever, and I just happen to have it on, yeah, I'll have it on. There's a couple sequences I wouldn't mind seeing again. Edgar Wright, I'm anxious to see what he does with music in a film. And he does a couple songs, needle drops, but none of them are really ones that really fit the film, I don't think, or really make it work.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with any of the music. Which normally, I mean, remember the film Baby Driver? What that was all about, setting music.
My gosh, yeah.
And this was such a non-existent. Yeah. If anything, it makes me curious to go back and watch the original Running Man again, just to see did I like this a lot better? So,
so it's just all the things I wanted out of an Edgar Wright film, I didn't get. And, for it just to be a run-of-the-mill action movie with a little light comedy in it, it was just kind of there. And that's a shame. That's a real shame.
Okay. I think we're basically on the same page.
Again, Glen Powell's good.
Yeah,
I'm still saying Glen Powell's good. I think I'm waiting for him to have that one big movie star blockbuster role that just works for him.
Sure.
He's been in a lot of movies and he's been the lead in some movies, but it's just none of them have been a blockbuster, big action movie thing. And he's got that. He's ready for that. But this was just not quite it, I'm afraid. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we have exhausted our conversation on The Running Man. I am tired of running.
You're exhausted.
On the run. I'm exhausted with The Running Man. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a review of a different kind of film called Jay Kelly by Noah Baumbach. We'll be reviewing that film in just a moment. Stay tuned. You're listening to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network.
Want to discover great podcasts or maybe even start one of your own? Welcome to The Mesh, Western North Carolina's podcast network built for creators and listeners alike. From local sports and business to comedy and culture, The Mesh is home to unique voices and fresh perspectives. Do you have something you want to say? The Mesh can help you bring your podcast to life with the tools, support, and platform you need to be heard. Check us out at themesh.tv, where great podcasts live and new ones are born.
Welcome back to Foot Candle Films. I don't know, Chris, if our editor, who edits these shows for us, is going to opt to leave in my little rant I just gave you during the break about The Running Man. I got into very minutiae details about the game of The Running Man and tactics for winning it. If that made it in, great. If it didn't, I'm sorry, everybody. That was actually, I think, kind of fun. Anyway, who knows?
Well, people say, when you see a film, if you walk out and you have a strong reaction one way or another, the film has succeeded. So
okay, well then
you
this
have a
film
strong
is a
reaction
success.
towards this film.
This film
Not
is very
favorable.
successful. Right. All right. No, it's just okay, whatever. Let's move on. Chris, we have a second film to review. It is the film Jay Kelly, directed by Noah Baumbach, starring George Clooney and Adam Sandler.
I don't want to be here anymore, Jerry. I want to leave the party.
Jay Kelly, so handsome.
Look at you. You're the American dream. The last of the old movie stars.
I'm down here.
You're up there, you're down here, you're in here. We did this together.
The log line for Jay Kelly is, everybody knows Jay Kelly, but Jay Kelly doesn't know himself. As you mentioned, famous movie actor Jay Kelly, played by George Clooney, embarks on a journey of self-discovery confronting both his past and present, accompanied by his devoted manager, Ron, who is played by Adam Sandler. In this film, we also have Laura Dern, Billy Crudup, Greta Gerwig, Jim Broadbent, Patrick Wilson. So, got a lot of people. This comes off, Noah Baumbach's made many films, Squid and the Whale, Marriage Story, While We Were Young, bunches of different films. The timing of this film being released, it was in limited release November 14th. It'll be out on Netflix December 5th. Got to think, Mr. Baumbach's maybe, kind of angling for award season, possibly. And this is a film that looks at Hollywood, obviously, with the movie actor kind of, inside Hollywood. We start off, the opening scene is on a movie set, and you see them trying to get one of the final shots of the film. So we like movies. We often like movies about movies. We had kind of anticipated this film by Noah Baumbach. We were both big on Marriage Story. What was your experience with Jay Kelly, Alan?
Well, all right. This is not gonna. I'm very biased on this film because of the reasons you just described. Yes, this checks every box I've got for describe the perfect movie for Alan Jackson, and this is the kind of movie. It's about movies. It's a somebody kind of doing a self-reflection on their life, examining the relationships of the people around them and the choices they've made and how they've maintained those relationships. It is, it's. I like George Clooney. I'm a big fan of George Clooney. I think he's a really good actor. So, and I love it when Adam Sandler gets the chance to show some acting chops, and this film let him do it. So yeah, I'm already, even before one frame of this film played, I'm already biased towards it. That being said, I do think this held up. I think it's really good, and I liked it a lot. Does it have flaws? Yes, absolutely. And is it a perfect film? No. But man, it just worked for me so good. I think George Clooney is very, very good in this. I think Adam Sandler is very, very good in this. I think the dialogue and the written dialogue is very good, with a couple of exceptions. Or I will call out some performances I don't think worked very well in this film.
Okay.
But I love the overall tone and style of the film. It's just this whole idea of a self-reflection using flashback sequences, which could be seen as a little too glitzy, a little too Hollywoodish. They just totally work for me, though. I mean, it's just a personal thing. They worked. I loved the way they were presented and done. This is a film that is right up my alley. So it would have really had to have bombed for me to not like this film.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately. So again, I'm going into this with a very biased opinion. I admit that.
Your expectations were high. It seems like they were met.
They were high, and I feel like they were met.
Okay.
But like I said, this film would have really had to whiff hard to not work for me.
Gotcha.
Because of all the elements going into it. So that being said, I'm not the best person to be reviewing this because I'm just going to tell everybody I loved it, and that's it. So Chris, how about bring me down to earth and tell me your thoughts on the film and what worked and what didn't work with it. So
I liked the film. I appreciate it. It was a little safer than what I would normally associate films with Noah Baumbach. I kind of threw out there Squid and the Whale, Marriage Story, While We Were Young, Greenberg is another one of his films, Margot at the Wedding. All of his films I've liked, but they tend to have kind of a little bit of an edge to them. And I think the almost rose-colored glasses effect of looking at Jay Kelly's life. Yes, he has flaws, but it's just all the rough edges have been smoothed off so much that it came across to me as being a little too polished. Which, if it wasn't a Noah Baumbach film, it probably wouldn't occur to me. I'd be like, oh, it's kind of this is going to be a perfect, I would think, holiday movie to sit around the TV after you've met with the family, opened gifts, or had Thanksgiving, and you sit around and watch this film because it's kind of like this year's version, although I like this other film better, this year's version of The Holdovers. I mean, like a different type of film, because that film wasn't about Hollywood, but it's kind of like just kind of a warm feeling holiday type movie. But I think it was good. George Clooney is good, but I guess he's so good that in a way I don't feel like this role was challenging for him at all. So because of that, I want to say that he was good, but he wasn't doing it. He was just George Clooney being George Clooney. But that's what the role called for.
The film, that's what it needed.
Right.
Yeah.
I just like you, I'll echo. I like Adam Sandler. I like it when he does serious work, just because it seems like at this point in his life now, that's what he's more geared to, as opposed to just doing Hubie Halloween, which is a silly comedy. My biggest surprise, and I rattled his name off when I said he was involved with the film. So, hopefully this isn't ruining anything for anyone else, but Billy Crudup plays a character from George Clooney's past, Timothy, a former friend, another actor whose life has not taken the same arc as Jay Kelly's. And they meet early on in the film when a director that Jay Kelly had worked with passes away. And they go to his funeral and they kind of reconnect there. And they end up going to a bar to kind of talk and catch up. And that whole scene was amazing.
Yes,
and then
agreed.
This is the little bit Noah Baumbach'ness of the movie that I think was there. And then, like we were saying, Edgar Wright, we didn't see his stamp on the film, even though I feel like this one had the Baumbach'ness in many senses kind of smoothed down and all the rough edges gone. The fact that this specter of Timothy, played by Billy Crudup, what happened to him and the things he says to George Clooney, those hang over the entire rest of the film for me.
Yep.
And this is, 132 minutes, but still, like, I couldn't stop thinking about that character and some of the things he says and some of those revelations that he makes Jay Kelly have. You can see Jay Kelly like wrestling with them in different ways throughout the rest of the film. So overall positive on the film, but oddly enough, the thing that sticks with me with this film is Billy Crudup's character.
Oh yeah.
And kind of the effect he had. When you would think Jay Kelly would be the main thing because that's the title role, that's George Clooney. But in a way, it's like, I hope, who knows, but I would hope that Billy Crudup could maybe probably not though, get like a supporting nod, just because I thought for me, he played such a crucial part of the film.
Yeah. So. Yes, agreed on all that. I think Billy Crudup is great in his role. I will say, I've been positive on the film. I'll point out the couple things that didn't work as well for me. Laura Dern's character plays, I guess, his publicist, or I'm not sure.
She somehow is helping out Jay Kelly. I'm not sure the exact
It's
role.
basically, it's Adam Sandler's character and Laura Dern's character are kind of his two assistants, his managers,
right.
I think Ron, played by Adam Sandler, is his official manager.
Right.
I think I've got to imagine Laura Dern playing Liz. Liz is like publicist. I guess I can't really quite remember them. I think her role, her performance didn't match this film, and it was a little tough. They tried to make her a little more of the. They tried to give her a little more of a Howard Hawks kind of bringing up baby, kind of manic, and she's fast talking and always like on top of things, and always like there's a sequence where she rearranges people's stuff on the train like automatically without even really paying attention.
Hands,
it was it just didn't work, right. And I just found her performance to not be matching the style of the rest of the film. So I think that was a little bit of an issue there. And I know some people are going to balk at the ending, at least a fantastical element of the ending, which I can understand. It is a little on the nose. It's a little cute. It's a little too clever. I was okay with it, but I can also understand that. Yeah, it was a little much. The ending, not what I would have expected and wanted from this film, but I was okay with what they gave me. So anyway, that was kind of my misgivings with the film. The rest of it, I had no problems with at all.
Won't spoil it for people, but another figure that looms in the film is his father, and we do eventually get to meet his father. And I thought that was the actor that they have basically kind of doing a cameo in that role. I thought was really good, and I enjoyed seeing this person on screen. I thought the George Clooney interacting with him and kind of, I thought that was
agreed.
That felt
that was really good.
Felt good.
Just everything else worked for me. A
lot about the film did. It was a little bit the whole rough edges being shot, and the ending has a lot to do with that. Not that it's a bad ending, but it was just a little bit too sentimental for me. Because knowing it was a Baumbach film.
Well,
I think.
And yes, and I can agree with that argument, because over the course of the film, we're supposed to understand Jay Kelly is not a great person.
Right.
But
he's not the person that everyone else thinks he is because
Right.
of the persona that's been built up.
But I
around
also
it.
don't think it's because Jay Kelly is a bad person. I think it's Jay Kelly has worked himself into a style of life and a pattern of life that has caused him to be very insular and very selfish and very self-absorbed and not doing the right things for those around him. But we also see, even from you mentioned his father, we see some of the reasons why he's a little bit that way too.
Right.
So it's like you're supposed to not care for him terribly much, but also understand him a little bit more. So that's where that sentimental ending, it's like, it's like the sentimental ending is supposed to be yay, we love Jay Kelly. Jay Kelly's such a great guy, and forget about what we've said about him the last 2 hours. We're supposed to love him now. And it's like, it wasn't quite the tone I think it needed to hit. But there's a choice that the film made in showing a body of work of Jay Kelly.
Correct.
But using George Clooney's actual performances in other films. I thought that was an interesting choice, and I think there's a little meta commentary going on there.
Sure. But
I will say, even though I was starting to kind of groan just a little bit during that sequence, there is one sequence they put up at the end of that montage that's only visible to Jay Kelly. And then I'm like, okay, all right, that paid off a little bit. That made this work. I'm okay with this.
And if they had stopped there, and not done kind of a fantastical element about people in the audience, then I probably would have been a little bit. I would have been more on board.
I think it would have worked better. I agree with you. I think it would have worked better. I didn't have an issue with it, but I do think it would have worked better for sure. What you're describing.
So you mentioned kind of a hindrance to the film was Laura Dern's character. I will agree with that, and then say it actually kind of subtracted a little bit of my enjoyment of Adam Sandler's character, because there's a relationship that between the two characters that I felt was it was just sandwiched in there. It didn't really work. It was kind of like it was another layer that didn't need to be there and wasn't really handled very well anyway. And I just found it to be irritating.
Yeah, right.
So the thing that was new for me with this film, which you talked about, I'll just kind of second it real quick, is the flashbacks. For Noah Baumbach to do flashbacks, that's not something I associate, like dream sequences or remembering things in the past. And I thought the way they were done was cool. And one that I had, there was one where he visits a movie set and he sees an interaction with him and a young woman. And that at first didn't work for me because it was narrated by Clooney. But then the more I thought about it, it made sense that one was that way. The most impressive one for me is, I think, maybe one of the first ones that he does, where he reimagines the day when Timothy and he went to an audition. And that one was just so good.
I think the flashbacks were great. And yes, they are very, they're very, you could say that they're a little by the book, like, oh, of course we're going to do flashbacks and it's going to be Jay Kelly kind of standing in a corner watching this flashback. But just the way they're done, they worked for me. And I think the impact that they had were great. I wouldn't have minded actually another one in the film to flesh out a couple more aspects of his personality. But I think that it did the work. So they were good. Yeah, overall, I'm very high on this film, but it would have been a real shock if I wasn't. Sure. That's not a surprise for me. I was really anxious to hear your thoughts, and it sounded like you are positive, but there are some misgivings. There are some things that didn't work as well for you. But it sounds like with both these films, both the Baumbach film and Edgar Wright, The Running Man, it's like the disappointments we may have is where we didn't feel like the director really put his stamp on it. Baumbach did a little more on this one than Edgar Wright did on Running Man, but sounds like our misgivings, any misgivings that you've got with Jay Kelly, may have been because Baumbach was kind of taking his hands off the reins a little bit and just letting it be a standard Hollywood film in some places where we're not used to that with him. So, yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, that is Jay Kelly. As we mentioned, it is playing in theaters, select theaters currently, but it will be on Netflix December 5th. So that's when most people will have a chance to see it for sure. So we're a little early with, kind of giving our feedback on it, but just something to be thinking about in the next couple of weeks as the film is available for you to check out on Netflix. I'm saying yes, absolutely worth a watch. I'm excited to see it again personally. Chris, a little less enthusiastic, but still on the positive side.
Yes.
Fair enough. All right. Good deal. Well, that is our 2 reviews for today, Chris. We have one last thing we're going to do on this show because we don't have any news to share, and we've spent so much time talking about these other 2 films. But we have to cap it off with your recommendation. You teased it at the beginning of the show. You're set up for the recommendation. Why don't you explain to us what you are recommending for us as a film we ought to check out if we're looking for something to fill up our watch queue. So
I mentioned that, end of the year, for your consideration season, very busy. A lot of times the problems with making a recommendation is I can see it, but others haven't had a chance to yet because it hasn't come out in wide release or whatever. Well, this film has come out. It's been released on Netflix. It is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein.
Okay.
It stars Oscar Isaac as Dr. Frankenstein. The monster is played by Jacob Elordi. Christoph Waltz, Mia Goth are also in this. They did release it like a limited release in some big cities, like in New York and places like that. I got to see it at a critic screening, so I got to see it on the big screen, which is a shame. Most people will probably end up seeing this on Netflix, just at home. But, if you have a friend that has a really big TV or you have a really big TV, you're going to benefit because I think the scope of this thing and the sets and the costume design, you can tell. I mean, this is pretty much, you would assume Guillermo del Toro's kind of been making Frankenstein in several of his movies. The one that comes to my mind is Crimson Peak and Pan's Labyrinth. But the Pan's Labyrinth maybe less so, but that whole gothic, that whole look to it, like you heard he was making Frankenstein, you're like, yeah, well, that totally makes sense. So he doesn't disappoint in any of those areas. And I think all the acting is good. There are some, from what I recall, it's been a long time, high school, since I read the book, there are some differences that he does do with some of the material, which didn't bother me. I think others may be bothered by it. It does still end in the same place and everything, but it was a fascinating enough take on the material and just with all the production design and everything that it kept me engaged. And it is 150 minutes long. So it is long, but it did keep me engaged. And I think, interestingly, lots of folks are commenting on Jacob Elordi's performance as the creature, as they're billing him instead of the monster. I thought he was good, but I guess it is kind of one of those instances where it's like a less is more performance because he doesn't get, the people that are moving and talking a lot are Oscar Isaac. And, so I'm impressed that he's getting as much notice as he is. Not that he's bad, but I'm just kind of surprised. I will say the creature design and the makeup design I thought were really, really, really interesting and really cool. So that's Frankenstein. Also, I enjoyed, which I think is different from the book, if I remember correctly, Christoph Waltz's character. He's basically ends up being kind of a benefactor or a sponsor of a lot of Dr. Frankenstein's research and kind of some things going on there. I don't remember that from the book. I think it's unique to this, and I found it really interesting. And I always enjoy Christoph Waltz. So that is the 2025 version of Frankenstein. It's available on Netflix now. I recommend it.
Yes, I am so anxious and curious to watch this. I'm kind of surprised I haven't yet. It's just been a lack of time. I mean, it's actually at the top of my list of something to watch. And so I was anxious to hear somebody else's take that I trusted, and that would be you, Chris. I do trust your take.
Cool.
Sounds like it's good.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth checking out. Okay. So will it and actually, for some reason, it seems like there's a lot more attention put on all the Dracula films that have happened. Yeah. Like, Nosferatu last year was such a huge splash. And then they put Frankenstein out. We're going to have The Bride, which is going to come out in 2026.
Correct.
But I don't really think of a Frankenstein adaptation that really sticks in my mind. Whereas with Dracula, Nosferatu, and actually Bram Stoker's the Francis Ford Coppola version, we're always because I saw that when I was in high school or college or whatever. So, but I will say, as far as Frankenstein's versions, other than like the original, of course, this one does I think this is one of the better adaptations of the work, too.
Right.
So if you're a fan of the story, you're in luck. So.
All right. Well, good. Well, I am excited to see it soon, and hopefully I can echo some of your thoughts on it as well when I do check it out. So, all right. Well, thank you for the recommendation, Chris, on that. It's on Netflix. So what's on Netflix we're talking about? Jay Kelly will be on Netflix December 5th. Frankenstein is available on Netflix now as you hear this. Okay, Chris. Well, I think that wraps us up for today. We had our lukewarm to underwhelming review of Edgar Wright's The Running Man. We had my glowing positive, but expectedly so, in yours positive review of Jay Kelly by Noam Baumbach, and then your recommendation of Del Toro's Frankenstein.
Yes.
3 auteurs that we
go.
commented on with your latest work this year. Interesting. All right, Chris, if anybody has any thoughts or wanted feedback on any of the 3 films that we've talked about today, how can they do so?
You can send an email to info@footcandle.org. You can leave us a voicemail via the contact page on the mesh.tv website. You can follow us on Facebook at Foot Candle Film Society, or on Instagram Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter at Foot Candle Film. Al and I are also on Letterboxd, where we try to keep track of what we're seeing and sometimes leave quick takes. Do us a favor. If you like the show, consider giving us a star rating, write a review, or share with friends on whatever service you receive your favorite podcast on, because it will help us reach new listeners, and we would always appreciate that.
All right. And with that, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Foot Candle Films, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time. Take care.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch films in the company of like-minded people in the dark. Watch films in the underground. We won't let anyone know where you are. The films that don't make it to Carmike at the mall, or ones that were famous when Grandpa would watch films out of the reverence of the heritage of an art. Watch films through the courtesy of Foot Candle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.